Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks so much for having us. I'm Melissa Dunn. I am the head of marketing at Suzy. For those of you who don't know us, we're an end-to-end consumer insights platform. I'm really excited today to be here with Jen and Kate to talk about brand building and brand love in this age of performance. I'm going to have Jen and Kate introduce themselves before we get started. And just tell us who you are, what you do, and what maybe your favorite thing about the job.
All right, that's a list. Good morning. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here and be invited to speak with Kate, one of my partners in crime. My name is Jennifer Bridie. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Southwest Airlines. I've been with Southwest almost 11 years now. Prior to that, I spent time on the agency side, never on in the airline industry, so really worked across many different verticals, but really brought that into the role. Came on to Southwest when we went through the rebrand in 2013, ran our brand team for a number of years, and then moved over to strategy, and now I have the full purview of marketing, so everything from creative, media, strategy, and our digital operations. So very privileged to be there. I'm also a wife. I said a husband earlier when we were talking, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I have one. I am a wife. I'm a wife and a mom of two teenagers who help me keep really focused on what consumers today want, because they keep me honest all the time. My favorite thing about the job, honestly, I never thought I would go client side, but I love how dynamic our industry is, and it changes every single day. And so that just keeps me completely busy and out of trouble.
I love that. Kate, what about you?
Hi, Kate Sheehy. I lead the strategy department at GSD&M. It's part of why Jen and I get along so well. Her background in strategy and my love language, which is briefs and research, are nice twin matches there. Before agency, I was brand side at Expedia, and my career path before that was agency, startup, and nonprofit worlds in Austin, Texas. I have a dog. A wolf. She's part wolf, literally. The DNA test shows it. And my favorite part about the job are people. I love working with people. I love figuring out what makes teams tick. I think it's a big part. Not only are we doing marketing to consumers, you have to get people on board that you work with. So the people part of the job is probably the thing I love most.
Love it. All right, we're going to get into it. We're going to start at a high level. How do you both define success within performance marketing? And Kate, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. So what does success look like in performance marketing is sometimes, I think we're having the wrong conversation, which is it's performance market. It implies there's an opposite, performance marketing and brand marketing. And obviously on the creative agency side at GSD&M, we like to come with big, bold, breakthrough creative ideas. And those big ideas can drive performance, right? They don't preclude that. As well as performance marketing, things that are lower funnel, if you will, that are really meant to drive the click today, can also build a brand's position in people's mind. So for us, it's really thinking about two things. Number one is every single piece of communication we put in the market, whether it's designed for short-term or long-term, building the position the brand holds in people's minds so that if you had to turn every piece of media or marketing off, we'd still be top of mind, we'd be loved, we'd be the brand that they prefer and consider. And then second is whether it is a big brand, bold idea, or it is something that is, you're being retargeted, or it's an email, is it incremental? Is it driving a booking or a sale that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise? So those two things together, I think, are really where we think about performance marketing success, but it doesn't preclude brand marketing success as well.
Yeah, I would say, yes, and on Kate's answer, it's for us, it really is a lot about the incrementality and what we're driving. I mean, we are very fortunate to have such a loyal and large customer base. And that we can really reach through a lot of our owned channels and all of our marketing efforts that we have. So by the time we're putting more campaigns out there, whether it's owned or through our paid, it really is making sure that we're keeping an eye on what is the incrementality that we're driving from this effort. We have over 800 aircraft today. Last year, we flew almost 140 million passengers in and around the U.S. So, I know hoteliers out there, we talk about RevPAR and, heads and beds. For us, it's butts and seats, right? And so that's a lot of butts and seats that we have to get in the door. And so it's not just enough to drive shopping volume. Like I always say, I can get my 13-year-old and a bunch of friends to go on our site and shop around a little bit. But if it's actually not putting people in the seat and or I'm paying and doing efforts that I would have gotten naturally and organically, then that's not success for our team. So I think really success has to be drilled down to the incrementality. We've been unique in the business for a very long time because of our direct distribution model. And so for us, this idea of having to work harder to bring the traffic to us and educate especially new consumers on this idea of direct distribution and coming straight to Southwest. But there's reasons for that. One, we don't then have to pass on more cost to our customer. That was something day one. We didn't want to incur the incremental cost from the OTAs or any other booking engines because then we just have to pass that on to our customer. Two, you also lose sight of the customer experience. So we hold a very high bar in our hospitality and how we treat our customers, and we don't want to have anyone else providing a different level of service that we as a company hold ourselves to. You've seen probably recently we've opened up some meta search partnerships, but what we love about that is it still comes direct. We still get the booking, we still service the customer, and it's at no cost for us to pass through. So it really is about driving that incrementality.
I love that. And I think you both just touched on some interesting things around sort of brand and performance and the intersection there. And then Jen, the part about loyalty, I guess, if, for me, I think about Southwest and it's just a really customer-centric brand. And how do you think about loyalty, I think, in this day and age of balancing this brand and performance in a way that you're continuing to bring it, to love the customers that you have and potentially acquire new ones? And how do you guys think about sort of that loyalty piece as it relates to, brand love and performance?
Yeah. No, it's definitely a dance. As Kate said, it's not binary. Like both things have to coexist. But we really are fortunate in the vast relationships that we have. I mean, we're nearing almost 100 million Rapid Reward members in our loyalty program alone. So how do you continue to evolve and keep them engaged based on where they are in the relationship with you, right? I mean, I think for a long time, we were very fortunate pre-pandemic that we had the same repeat business that was coming back again and again and again. But as business travel has come down and you're not seeing the frequency and the pattern, there's definitely been an aperture change in terms of we also need to make sure we're getting in that net new, right? And driving that loyalty. And I feel like, there's so many companies, like you have to figure out that breadcrumb trail of how you start to bring people in the smaller engagement. Buying an airplane ticket is high consideration for some people, right? Especially on the leisure side. A little easier when it's on the business side. But so you have to be able to give them kind of everyday achievable things to drive that loyalty back to your brand. And so finding those moments of when you can dive in. And I think it's not all on marketing. I mean, we are super fortunate. I was talking with these ladies earlier today, like I geek out when I get to go spend time with our frontline employees because our frontline employees are some of the best in the world. And I will hands down take anyone on who wants to argue with me about that. But, they do such a phenomenal job. And my job is to help highlight that because that is a key differentiator for us. But they're the ones at the end of the day that have to deliver on the experience that we as a brand are promising. And we have to be authentic to who they are. And they're just so brilliant and beautiful in how they show up every single day. And if they can put a smile on someone's face and what is not necessarily the best experience the airline industry in general, it's not fun, and so, but our employees make it fun. And so how do you capture that? And how do you continue to make sure that people understand that about the brand?
And I would just build, when you talk about loyalty and continuing to build that, new generations and our customers who've been with us for decades, the employee experience at Southwest is truly a cut above. Like, we all have to fly another airline at some time because of, work and routes. Right. Yeah. But to get where you're, the selection and the route, it is not the same experience. And when we conduct focus groups, we hear all the time, Southwest is an airline where I feel welcomed. It's an environment where I feel like I can be myself. I usually talk to the person sitting next to me. I would never do that on American. Like, these are the kind of things that consumers say to us. And like, how many bad experiences have you had on an airplane? And you don't have that with Southwest employees and talent. Like, the hospitality truly is unrivaled. And that is a loyalty driver time and time again.
Who's had a good hospitality story? Anyone? No? Y'all aren't flying us then. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you couldn't hear? What I said? I asked if anyone had a good hospitality moment on one of our planes. No? She's like, no.
No one flies Southwest in here?
What did you say? Yes, girl. Love that. Oh, thank you. Well, we'll talk about Companion Pass here at the end. So, and then you raise your hand. You fly Southwest?
So I flew Southwest like last week, and it's so true because I walked up and like all of the gates at American and United, et cetera, were just like super boring. Everybody was stoic, and then the Southwest gate was like celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and had flags everywhere, and the employees were all like out talking to customers, and it was like a bright, shining moment in this like sea of dullness.
Who's recording him? Anyone? Anyone? Yay! Okay, thank you. I'm going to post that later. I'm going to get your information. No, I appreciate it. And it is. And I think day one, our founders gave them the freedom and autonomy to do what was right for the customer. And you see that day in and day out. That is what empowers them to be able to deliver the hospitality that we need them to be able to deliver. And so, thank you.
I was just going to say, as a research company, the voice of the consumer, we believe, for our brands is the most important thing. So the fact that we are hearing and almost having a mini focus group in here, I think is amazing, and very different probably from the other sessions. So in my research preparing for this session, I discovered that Southwest and GSD&M have been partners for decades. Which is a really long time. I was in the agency world for many years, and we know that that is a hard relationship to keep for that long. So I really wanted to understand from the two of you what has made this relationship so special, and how have together you really driven this consumer-centric sort of mission together to really make the customer at the center of everything you do for Southwest?
I'll start by Amy Lyon, who has run the Southwest business for 25 years on the GSD&M side. Let us know that tomorrow is actually our 43rd anniversary of working together, which is just, decades.
Congrats.
Yes, 43 years is incredible. The kind of relationship you don't see that kind of longevity in the industry anymore. I think part of it is our founders, Roy Spence and Herb Kelleher and Colleen Barrett, founders of Southwest Airlines, were just, had exceptional vision. They wanted to do things differently, and they wanted to do what was right by people. And I think that is a real differentiator that we've carried through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, when you walk the halls of Southwest, there's so much heritage, and you can't walk 5 feet without seeing pictures of our founders side by side, taking on government positions, going to war and rally for whatever we needed to do, the greater good of Southwest, and they've always been a partner. And it's a marriage. It hasn't been perfect all the time, and I would say we probably had more of a wandering eye over the 43 years than they would like us to have. But it still comes back, and so I think from day one they were by our side helping us develop our voice and develop who we are. And it's like, we'll go, and if we talk to other agencies or try to have those conversations, it's like no one else has been able to, in the years that I've been here, find that same rhythm and find that same voice and the authenticity. And that's so huge to who we are, and kind of how we've grown up, that just keeps us coming back for more. And I think, they've been a partner that really has been in the trenches, for all the things. Again, we are a 53-year-old company, and so the fact that we've been with our agency partner for 43 of those speaks volumes. But, you know, it's great. They're in the business with us every single day. I give them full access to what is going on. I also come from the agency side, right, prior to this role. And I've been in those relationships where clients keep their partners at a distance and they don't fully let them in. But you're not really then embracing the full value of what you're paying for. So by letting them in and letting our, you know, all of our teams in, it's really making sure that we're getting pushed. We're asking each other the right and the hard questions. Because that's what makes the work great.
And I would just build, you know, we talk a lot about if we have 14 days to complete an assignment, like we're going to spend the first 13 on the strategy, really making sure we know exactly what problem we're going to solve. Because you get the strategy right, and the creative team, our chief creative officer says this all the time, you can, you know, throw 1,000 arrows at that box because you know what you need to accomplish, and then it's a matter of taste. Right? It's a little more subjective, but we've gotten clear on the objective part of defining the problem. And what's amazing is the access that Jen and her team give us, both to what is happening with their customer. We're in the trenches defining research agendas together. You know, how often do you get a piece of research and you have no idea why exactly it was fielded, how the questions were worded, if there was any bias that happened along the way, what the outcome, who it was fielded with, like all of these things contribute to maybe not a precise understanding of what the problem you're meant to solve is. So I feel like we always start from a really strong place of understanding the problem together, and it allows us to really be, you know, hard on the work, easy on the people, and know the problem that we're solving.
And as she mentioned earlier, we both geek out about briefs, like super mission critical to me. I mean, that's kind of the Bible of marketing, and you have to make sure you get that right, or everything can get off the tracks really fast. So,
Totally. I was going to say the strategy, I mean, it defines everything, right? So can you guys talk a little bit about how you've seen success within going from a strategy to execution? And I'm sure there's some success stories that you've had, and maybe also talk about some things that haven't worked as well. But I often find it's the things that fail actually teach you the most. So are there maybe some lessons in, you know, the good things and maybe some things that didn't go as well that just help demonstrate how the connection between the strategy and the execution is so key?
All right. Well, I think, you know, a couple things that went well, and then I'll finish on the opportunities and what we've learned.
That's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, I think, you know, for us, a couple campaigns come to mind and a couple efforts. So pre-pandemic, we had a campaign that we were really pleased with around this idea of transparency. So we made up a whole word. It's actually in the Webster Dictionary now. You know, the strategy in that is when this was the time when all of a sudden everyone started charging you for every little thing in the process. You know, go back, you know, a decade and a half, 2 decades, and you just bought a seat. There wasn't 20 decisions you had to make when trying to check out, you know, and actually purchase a flight. And the industry just went so extreme, and we just stayed true. And so we just had so much fun with it. It's so great to have a brand that has a personality and a wit that you can kind of get away with calling out your competition, but do it with a wink and a smile, and people find it endearing. Because again, we go back to the customers. You get too much in the trenches in those competitive fights, and they're like, "That's not you. Don't play that game. Stay above it all." You know, and so there's always this fine balance, but being able to lean into our humor into it and show and really shine a light on the fees that other airlines were charging, and starting to, as you had to make these decisions, and we just had, literally, there was an image that we created that just had $0 across all of it, and it's just like, here was your fare, and everything else was 0, and then there's your same exact fare 10 steps later, where everyone else, if you add it all up, got a lot more expensive. So the insight there was really powerful of like kind of shining a moment. And at that time in our industry. And then I would say the word, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you one question related to that. The fun, I mean, I think having a personality is so key. So is that a big part of the ethos as far as building the brand love?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so excited. Actually, it's a great segue to our most recent campaign, too, because I think during the pandemic, I mean, obviously it was tough on so many businesses, and it was great for some, right, in some industries. The airlines, it was rough, you know, and I think what you saw happen during the pandemic was a commoditization, even more so, right? Everyone came to the middle, whether it was other airlines becoming more flexible, more like us, in the way we've always done things, which is great, flattery, we'll take it. But what happened was we we became so serious and so focused on like, okay, who is willing to fly right now? At what cost? How do we go get them? That we lost a bit of our spunk and what we say is our swagger. And so with this new campaign, really leaning into where are the travelers mentally today as they're making decisions? How do we make sure that we are reintroducing ourselves post-pandemic in this new world in a way that resonates with them, but is also true to who we are, and really bringing that personality forward again into the industry. So Big Flex launched earlier this year, really leaning heavily into our flexibility and everything that we continue to offer the base, but just, again, owning that as well.
And the thing I love about That's a Big Flex, our most recent brand platform, is the research journey, like I mentioned before, started with a very clear understanding of what the problem was. Like, our position had been eroded because everyone became more flexible during the pandemic, but most of the other airlines reversed those policies. They were no longer flexible. So we wanted to go back to our core brand position. And since the beginning, it's been around freedom. We give people the freedom to fly. We democratize skies. In the earlier days, that was about liberating markets, right? Where you would go into a market and all of a sudden every single fare, average fare price would drop because Southwest low cost would make every other airline come down. And so, yes, that was the freedom to fly. But now you kind of have the freedom to fly if you're going to pay for it, right? Like, you can pay for more flexibility. If you have status, you might get a little bit more of that. So what does freedom mean to consumers today? It was the best freaking research. And where we ultimately landed was this idea of the freedom to say yes. That's what Southwest offers. All of our policies allow you to go, see, and do. You can change your flight. You can bring your bag. If you need to cancel and book at another time, you get that credit back. So all of these things really put the consumer first. And I think it also led to a big shift in how we communicate. It used to be, we give you the freedom to fly. We give you transparency. And That's a Big Flex is the voice of our consumers talking about how they get to flex when they're on Southwest. So also a subtle but really meaningful shift in how we think about the role of the consumer in our brand story.
Love that. What about the optimizations, areas of opportunity?
Well, that was convenient. I skipped right over that. It's when we strayed from being who we are, when we would chase something that was a bright, shiny thing, and we saw other airlines doing well in it, and we're like, "Oh, wait, we should go play over there too," right? That is where the misstep happens, and so I think, just that's when we would go and maybe look at other agencies and talk to them and bring them in, and like you try to go be something you're not, and it falls real fast. And so those are really the times I would say that, you look at what stands the test of time is just staying true to who you are. Other than that, just don't chase the shiny things.
There was a meeting where someone was mentioning something that would make Southwest industry standard. And I love, Jen goes, there's nothing standard about Southwest. Like, we are above
Run
and
the
beyond.
other direction. That is not the bar we're setting for ourselves. Yeah.
But that kind of leadership is hard to come by. And I think it's something that excites us as an agency is like, yes, what can we do to break through? What can we do to remain consumer centric? And like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, especially where we are today. We are walking into an enormous 2025 from a product offering standpoint. We've announced assigned seating. We've announced extra legroom. We've announced our new Getaways Vacations product that's coming. We've announced interline partnerships. So we are evolving to meet what our customers are searching for and asking for, but also having to stay true. So there's very real, timely conversations happening multiple, they're crashing my calendar and it's killing me right now, but around these products, and we're making policy decisions. But it's your role, coming from the marketing side and being the closest to the customer, to be able to say, wait, hold up, that's not helpful. Long term, that won't work. And so I am happy to be the squeaky wheel when I can. But like, I hear my peers, they all come with great intentions from the other side of revenue management. Like, well, that's how the other airlines do it. And I'm like, oh, kill me. No, we're not doing it that way. We're not going to monetize it that way. We're going to do, how do we make sure whatever we do is simple and easy, and consistent with how we've, portrayed ourselves for the last 53 years.
I love it. And I think that's ultimately what comes down to the loyalty and the brand love is really consumer first. The products you're building are based on the consumer at the center and making sure you're having that consistent experience. So I think we just have a couple minutes left. I wanted to open it up for anyone in the audience that may have a question for Jen or Kate. Yes.
You were just talking earlier about how the travel has come down, and we heard yesterday from another travel company that the revenge travel bump after COVID is kind of leveled off. So what are you seeing for next year from consumers? And, where are all these products that you're putting out landing, in the, trying to get the attention of those consumers and, of course, their travel dollars?
Yeah, I think we've normalized, honestly. I suspect that next year's travel will look a lot like this year's travel, honestly. And so I think, coming out of the pandemic, everyone, 2022 was a great year. And I think at that point, everyone's like, great, travel's back, it's better, it's going to sustain. And then it just kind of started to just finally normalize itself again. I mean, even the booking curves, they were during the pandemic all over the place. And when you're thinking about how people are researching and traveling and when they're booking, their patterns shifted so much. But this last year, they really have normalized kind of more to our pre-pandemic booking curves and stuff. So I feel like the overall travel pattern will be very similar to what we're seeing this year. It's not that business travel is gone. We're all here sitting in this room, but it's just not as frequent as it once was, right? Virtual conference calls, everything, obviously cost-cutting measures going in place for companies, that has impact. But for us, the great thing is we are very heavily focused on the leisure customer when you do have the flexibility that we have. And so really a lot of that is on the backs of, for us, on the leisure side and making sure that we're gathering and capturing all that demand that we can. Your second question.
I also love that you guys are thinking about new category entry points. So right now you go to Southwest for air travel, but they just announced the launch of getaways, full vacation packages and bundles, bringing exceptional flexible policies to your whole vacation, which are a lot of money. The stakes are high when you're booking that. You want to make sure you get it right. So, that's also a great kind of tailwind. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So you were asking about our other products and everything to come, and kind of how they're sitting with our customer base. There is a lot of excitement. Talk about open seating has been a stronghold for us for our whole existence, right? So has Bags Fly Free. Lots of research went into both of these as we wanted to understand, revenue pressures. How do we get the most out of what we offer today? How do we monetize the cabin like OA? But we won't do it like OA. Other airlines. Sorry, industry speak. But at the end of the day, it's really taking their lead. I was really proud of our executive leadership team. It would be real easy to just start getting the revenue from bags tomorrow, right, and generating a ton of money for the company. But the research showed us that your long-term risk honestly almost left you flat on the revenue contribution. The downside of people that would walk away from our brand and stop giving us their business because of that. And it's interesting because it's a small percent of people that really check their free bags, right? But it's this psychology and it's the idea of if I need to, if I want to, the fact that you're staying true and consistent, again, back to who you are as a company, it really does pay dividends. So we are charging hard and fast, as we shared last week, 2 weeks ago at Investor Day. So all these things will really start to come on or sell mid next year, and just really excited about what lies ahead.
Awesome. I think we are at time. Jen, do you want to reveal?
Yeah. So, okay. Well, you spoke. Do you have a companion pass already? You fly us?
I did.
You do have okay. You have a companion pass. Okay. You know who a companion? Y'all know what a companion pass is? Okay, it's a little unknown secret, but I need to do a better job, apparently, of marketing it. It's honestly the best one in the industry. So the Companion Pass is something you can earn, and basically it is a friend or a companion flies free with you. Legal would tell me taxes not included, but it's like $5, y'all. It's no big deal. Every time you fly, not one time, every time you fly. So no one else raised their hand on hospitality. Well, what do you want to do? How do you want to choose it?
Oh my goodness.
She asked a question.
Yeah, you
All
asked
right.
a question.
You asked a question. So I'm giving away a companion pass for all of 2025. So you just got a companion pass for all of 2025. This is, yeah. Oh, you can't take it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, look. That was right. You already had one. Didn't you say you had one?
I think I need to double check. That's what my wife puts everything.
Oh, no. Well, this is awkward now. Do you want me to play like some whole music or something? What are we doing? All right. Well, I will. Someone in here now will get a companion pass. We'll start with you. You need to make a phone call. But yeah, so it is a companion pass. You earn it through credit card, rapid reward points. But it really is the best travel hack if you don't know about it. I used it for many years with my younger daughter when we traveled for volleyball stuff, and it was lovely that she would get to fly free with me everywhere we go. So in celebration of companionship of 43 years, I thought we'd at least give one of those away today. So, you have a companion pass then. All right. Well, thank you guys, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, everyone.